Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy. Unfortunately, we will start with the New Orleans Saints. Thursday night football last night in the Dome, Saints and Jags, and the Saints lose what was kind of a heartbreaker, 31-24. As the game goes final, I'm kind of sitting there going, how did it get to that? It just appeared to me that the Saints were totally outclassed for the first 40 minutes of game time. And I just kind of had resigned myself to the fact that Jacksonville's going to win this game by a couple of scores, and the Saints have no fight and no hope and no offense, and they're going to get run out of their own building. And then the Saints kind of found something on offense and obviously couldn't get the stop they needed on defense, but they had the ball late and had a chance, and they almost tied that football game or could have gone for 2 to win it late in the game. But the result is essentially the same that I thought after 2.5 quarters. The Saints lose the game at home. 31-24 was the final. I think the last 12 minutes of game time probably mask the first 3 quarters, but they shouldn't because the offense is still completely inept. On the Saints' first 8 possessions of the football game, the offense created 9 points and gave up 7 points on a pick six. The offense was up 2 on its first 8 possessions. Red zone offense, still atrocious. And Dennis Allen was asked about the red zone offense after the game and talking about going into the fade, which they just continue to run time and time and time again.
I think there's times where that can be, a good play, and obviously we didn't execute it, and certainly if we had, we'd be feeling differently, but we didn't get it done.
Clearly they think it's a good play because they throw it all the time. I've seen a lot of folks with the all-22 from the Texans game, the last 4 plays, 4 verts, chuck it. Last night, Foster's got to catch the football, no question about it. That's a ball that hits him right in the hands. You got to catch it. Absolutely have to catch the football. But then you've got a 4th down play, and you just chuck the fade. 1 read, 1 throw, 1 chance. 50-50 ball. It's not like you got Randy Moss out there. I don't see Calvin Johnson suiting up for the Saints. It's not some gross mismatch week in and week out. You got an aging Michael Thomas you're throwing some fades to, and he makes a good play last night on one. You got a 6'1" Chris Olave, who's a heck of a player, but I'm not sure he's a jump ball artist. Rashid Shaheed certainly isn't. This option doesn't make any sense to me that they continue to go back to it at the most crucial points in the game. It should be an option, not the option. And that's what it's turned into. And I mentioned Randy Moss, and I mentioned Calvin Johnson. Their elite size and athleticism, that gives you an advantage in their day in the red zone. You know who else has a lot of size? Jimmy Graham. And I dismissed the addition of Jimmy Graham all summer. Said, I don't think he's going to make the team. And people kept saying, he is going to make the team. He is going to make the team. And when I asked, why is he going to make the team when you already have Foster Moreau and you already have Taysom Hill and you already have Juwan Johnson, what do you need Jimmy Graham for? Well, he's tall. What about the red zone? 3rd downs. Well, they got some pretty important red zone possessions. He's never out there. And Dennis Allen was asked, well, where's Jimmy Graham? It's
a staff decision in terms of what we do, So I think anytime you're not successful down there, everybody's going to, want to know why you didn't do something else, And look, valid question, but we had the plan going in, and that was the plan.
I feel like you could label every problem on this Saints roster and just do the rubber stamp staff problem. Staff decision. Staff decision. Well, every staff decision stinks. And the team stinks. You've lost 4 of 5 at this point. And we're probably going to run this song and dance out like we did last year, saying, well, the division stinks. They're only a game back. Well, the division's not very good. They're right there. If they win the next 2, they stink. They're not any good. And what struck me last night was not that the offense was inept for 3 quarters. Was not that they had some fight and heart and had a chance to win the game at the end. It was not that the defense couldn't get the crucial stop at the end that they needed to give the offense a chance. That wasn't it. That wasn't the most noticeable thing from last night. the most noticeable thing from last night to me, from my couch, was that dome turned on the Saints. That hasn't happened in 20 years. Now, it was a lot in the 90s, okay? Folks wearing bags on their heads and the ain'ts and the whole deal, sure. But for the last decade and a half, that has been one of the most fierce home field advantages in American sports, especially at night in prime time. And I've spent a lot of time in that city, and they love the Saints fiercely. The loyalty is deep down there in New Orleans. And I have a lot of friends that were at the game last night. And multiple friends of mine told me, I've never really heard the dome like that. Now, look, we're 35 years old, so we weren't, really present in the 70s, 80s, 90s when there was a lot of bad football being played and the Boo Birds were out. Most of our time paying attention to the Saints, it was Breeze and Peyton, and they were really good, and the dome was electric. And last night it was quiet, it was dead, and when the Saints continued to punt, go 3 and out, turn the ball over on downs, miss another field goal, good grief, stop doing that. There's Boo Birds. Like, that stings. And I almost always disagree with booing. I think that is counterproductive. I hear the fan who says, look, I go to work, I work hard, I spend a lot of money on these tickets, I spend a lot of money on this beer, and I'm here, and if you're not performing to the level that I expect, I'm going to boo. That's my right as a fan. It certainly is. You can do whatever you want. But in my opinion, you ought to be in there like trying to help the team and support the team. You think Derek Carr feels awesome when he's running off the field and there's 40,000 people booing? And then you get the fan that goes, I don't care, he needs to play better. And that's fine. Like I'm just telling you how I feel. But it feels like there's very little hope in the fan base, in the performance, in the organization. And that stings. That's bigger picture to me than, well, they've lost 4 or 5. Well, the red zone offense isn't any good. Well, they couldn't get a big stop last night. Well, they missed another field goal. Where's Jimmy Graham? Like, all that stuff is in small picture and the reason why they lost the game. But I'm just looking at this thing from a big picture perspective going, man, it's bleak. It was bleak last year. And they just don't seem to have any answers. The defense has so much pressure on it. And they're finally starting to crack a little bit. And the offense just can't get it together. I know they scored the 2 late touchdowns, and I know Foster Moreau's got to catch that football. There is no question about it. You may have an opportunity to go for 2 and win that game. And it probably does change the tenor of my conversation today. But they didn't make the play. It's like they didn't make the play last week against the Texans. It's like they didn't score a touchdown against Tampa. And you look back over this thing in big picture, and what am I supposed to cling to that tells me that things are going to get better at some point? Offensive line's going to get healthy. Carr and Olave will get on the same page. They'll catch the football when they need to make a big play. Come on, man. We've been doing this since last August. Bottom half of the league coach, generously speaking, middle of the league quarterback, bad offensive line, bottom of the league offensive coordinator. I mean, you saw Jacksonville running some plays last night, the creativity, getting the ball to the edges, using their speed. The Saints are just using the edges and throwing the ball deep. They don't run it well. They're not on the same page. It's just a depressing deal. And last night was the first time for me in 15, 20 years since Katrina that I looked and I heard that dome and I went, that's not good. And it's just hard to fix. You can get a new coach. You can get a new offensive coordinator. Your quarterback synced to a deal that you're saddled with the next couple of years. Cam Jordan's not getting younger. Tyrann Mathieu's not getting younger. Demario Davis isn't getting younger. Ryan Ramchik's not getting younger. Alvin Kamara's not getting younger. I'd like to be more optimistic because, as y'all know, like, I don't have an emotional tie here. This is not me flying off the cuff because I was ticked off last night. I'm just calling it like I see it here. And it just feels so different and so distant from Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, prime time. They come in there in the domes on TV. That place is on fire. Breeze comes out there. They're putting up 35 points. Like, that was a decade, and it just seems so distant. And as I was telling some of my friends last night, it's like, man, it looks really attainable to get a great quarterback because at a given time in the league, there's 8 or 10 guys playing at a really, really high level. And when you've got that, it's great. And when you don't, man, is it brutal. And the Saints just don't. They don't. They don't have a guy that's comfortable behind that bad offensive line. They don't have a guy that's making good decisions. They don't have a guy that's seeing wide open receivers in the end zone. Then you got Olave who's not running at times. Like, it's just, the whole thing's a mess. And last night was just kind of, I mean, I was at a kind of a breaking point last week with things. This is just kind of more depressing than it's like frustrating. It just feels a long way from good football. And resets are hard. And especially when you're in the situation that the Saints roster's in. This division over the last 2 years was put on a silver platter for the New Orleans Saints, and they have knocked the silver platter on the ground, spilled everything on it, and broken it in half. It's an absolute disaster in the worst division in the sport. And they've lost 4 of 5, and we'll see if they can use this many by to get going. But the fan base doesn't feel good. We talked to Luke yesterday, and he said vibes are terrible. Last night certainly didn't help, and it stung to see it on the home field. So, hey, it's on. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.